Ken has babies crawling around.
That's mini me.
Okay. Yeah, I don't need to worry about that much. Okay.
BJ, you are at 5 o'clock. You have a quorum of your committee, so you're good to go whenever you are ready.
I am. Have you heard from the other commenter?
I know that we have two people on the list, Ken and Nan. No, I have not heard anything from Nan as of yet, and don't see her trying to get into the meeting at this moment. So my recommendation would be
I'm going to move forward and then
go ahead and proceed. Yep.
Hopefully she'll catch up. Okay. I'm going to call to order. It is now 5:01. First things first, any approval of the agenda? Any changes we want to make to that? Looks like by consensus that has been approved. I'm going to move on to the public input and announcements. Ken, you're the only one, but I'm still going to hold you up to the same guidelines of, I'm going to say 3 minutes since we have one commenter at this time. I'm going to let you go. Why don't you unmute?
Yeah, I was trying to get the microphone to jump up here. Thank you, BJ. I probably won't use up all my 3 minutes. I just wanted to share a couple things with you. I watched the rest of the previous meeting after public comments, and I really liked the concept that Adrian proposed and you all discussed about keeping this on a positive tack. Like, don't try to list everything that's forbidden, or it's the same applies to, permits, Act 250 permits and such. It's much easier to say what is permitted than to try and list everything that is not permitted, because that's pretty much impossible. You'll always have somebody that says, well, I want to raise this flag, and it's not on your list of what's forbidden. So I also think, obviously, it's very good to tie it into educational goals. And so I appreciated that. And also, I wanted to share a quick story. I was talking to a neighbor of mine just a few days ago, and this subject came up, and he said, Ken, I just don't get this Black Lives Matter thing. All lives matter. And I said, well, yeah, you're quite correct about that. And of course, I took the opportunity to share with him, what I shared with this board back in July, I guess it was, at a public comment at a meeting, and during public comment at a meeting. And also I wrote a commentary that was published just after Labor Day weekend, that all lives do, of course, matter, but there are some people that don't see Black lives as mattering the same. Black lives are pushed down. They aren't up here with other lives. And I also shared that it wasn't so long ago that I was in that all lives matter camp. I didn't get it. I said, all lives matter. Why is this Colin Kaepernick kneeling during the national anthem? That's disrespectful. But I came around. I learned. And this neighbor I was talking to the other day, I could see in his eyes that he was really listening. He was intaking what I was saying, and said, like, I didn't think of that way. So I want the board to know that there are a lot of thoughtful people out here and outside of board land, and there are a lot of people that support what you're doing. There are some people that don't support it so much, but I think of a phrase I learned when I used to be involved with Act 250 a lot, and there was a saying, and it goes for
30 seconds.
It goes for negotiations and setting policy. If anybody comes away and says, we won, yay, the process didn't work. So I wish you a lot of luck in coming up with something that people on both sides of the issue can live with, that they see it as reasonable, and they see that you've given a lot of thought to the matter. So I guess I did use up my 3 minutes, but thank you for everything you're doing, and know that there are people out here that support it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
BJ,
I
I received a comment or a communication from Nan who was having link trouble. I just resent that link to her. So my recommendation would be maybe give her 30 seconds or so to see if she can find her way to our gathering spot.
Okay, and I see that Adrian is on the running notes, has that document open, but I don't see her in the list. So I'm wondering if she's trying to get in. I don't have a contact from her, so.
I can reach out to her as well, BJ, let you know, okay?
Yeah, I just happened to see her on that list. Okay. Also, okay, so let's see, what else was I going to do? Actually, what I would suggest at this time is, okay, see it, Ken. While we're waiting for Nan, I'm going to say let's give everybody this time to review the flag policy that will be coming up. And this would be a good time just to kind of read it through quietly. We will talk about it. Actually, we can go to approval of minutes. Let's just get that off quickly while we're waiting for Nan.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from September 22nd, subject to correction, even though I wasn't at the meeting.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any changes that anybody noticed? Okay, so I'm going to approve the minutes for, or can I have a vote for approving the minutes for September 22nd? I see
I'm going
one
to
hand up.
abstain. I'm just going to abstain since I wasn't there.
Same,
Okay.
same with me.
So Len and I approve it. Is that enough? I think, yeah, I guess it's approved. Okay.
Hold on a second, BJ. Did you just have 2 in favor?
Yeah, I think
I
you
had
need 3.
You need a quorum in order to take an
Doug,
action.
did you approve it? I think you were there.
3. Okay.
I think I heard Doug approve it.
Yeah, I was there, but I'm not on the committee. Does that make a difference?
That does.
Yeah.
You need 3 members of the committee, BJ, to approve that. So if you don't have 3, you'll need to hold off until next meeting for approval.
Okay. Make a note, Liz, to hold off until next meeting because we didn't have enough people to bring that up.
And BJ, Nan is with us now if you would like to go back to the public comment.
Okay. Hey, Nan, welcome. You're still on mute. There you go.
There. Okay, at this point, I feel like I don't even have anything to say. Going through that to get to you people was quite the trial by fire. I got the wrong link, I think. I was just looking at you guys through YouTube. All I would like to say is I totally support flying these flags. My personal feeling is I would have liked to see the flags fly at all the schools. But if a compromise had to be made, I understand that. And I hope you're working toward getting the policy in place in time so that those flags can fly when the children go back to school. So thank you for your work on this, and I really appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you, Nan. And if you're welcome to go back to that YouTube link you found.
Okay, good. Thanks so much. Take care.
No problems. Okay. You're set. Okay. So approval minutes. We're at the flag policy. I'm going to say let's give everybody a few minutes to kind of read through that. Any changes? So it is now.
I need a minute to find it, unless you want to link it.
I'm going to throw it in the chat window
That would be appreciated.
here because it took me a few minutes to find it beforehand. Okay, it's
BJ, would you like for me to share my screen so that the public can see what you are discussing and looking at?
Yes, if you could share your screen, and I'd say I'll double check in around 3 minutes, and if we need a few extra, we'll go from there.
Hello.
Hi, Adrian.
Sorry, I have no idea. I tried copying the link and it just didn't go through. So thank you, Dave. Even if I was trying to be confusing.
Doug, you had your finger up. What's up?
Yeah, I got a question. In draft flag procedures, said school board shall consider flag requests from MRUUSD students only. I have a question, and it make him
Hey, Doug,
force-
can I interrupt? Can I interrupt before that question? You're looking at the wrong document, I believe, sir. There's not a draft flag procedures on the document we're looking at, and it does not say students only. So this is the document called Copy of V2 Draft Flag Request Policy 10/6/2020.
I
Okay,
got the old- I must have
Doug?
an old one. I've got 2 copies of that.
Okay, because I have V2 Draft Policy 10/6/2020. I don't have the copy of. Is that different, Dave?
Okay, then
That's just, sorry, that's just
nine
internal
fifteen.
with my copies, so you're
Can,
good.
can I ask that we have a full 2 minutes to read the policy?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Doug, do you need me to send that to you so that you've got a clean copy of it?
Not so much now. So I'll read over what you've got on the screen and stuff. But yeah, after this is over, if you could please,
You bet, no problem.
thank you. Well, I do notice that it's still listed up here as the school board will only consider flag requests from MRUUSD students, student groups, or staff members. And
Hey,
I'm
Doug?
looking.
Doug,
Doug,
can
I'm
we
Doug,
have
Doug.
can we have a full 2 minutes to read without
Yeah.
interruption? Can everyone mute? Thank you.
Yeah, Doug, I'll bring everybody back in a few minutes once we read through. Just take notes. I know I'm a slow reader, so I'm usually the last. Is there anybody else still reading? Okay. I think we can then start opening it up for discussion. Let's just kind of do a quick round robin. I'm going to start with Adrian. You're in my top left. So I'm going to start with you if you want to add
Okay,
any comment.
No, I had actually read this when Dave sent it to us, so I was sort of familiar with it, and I'm actually okay with it. I think it does a lot of what we'd like to see. It gives a gate that not everything comes straight to the board, which I think is a good thing. You know, there are some things that we just don't want to see, and then we're going to look at things in terms of policy and of goals. And there's not going to be, you know, things from outside people's opinions. It has to support what we intend to have it support. So I think that it's fine. I'm fine with it.
Okay. Liz?
Okay, so I'm looking back at a previous version just because that's where I took notes. So in this version, I'm just confused that there's an inference that the Mill River Union Unified School District Board is a government. And that just needs to be explained to me.
You talking about the first line where it says form of government?
Well, again,
form of
so I'm
government?
looking at a previous draft because that's where I took my notes, but this draft says flagpoles are a form of government speech. Okay, so what government? The Mill River Union Unified School District Board governance body? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, I would like that more clearly defined.
BJ, do you mind if I respond to that?
Looks like John does have a comment about that too. So I'll let David, if you want to let John talk, or if you have a comment first.
No problem.
He's not in his room.
So under state law, school districts are considered a municipality and therefore a form of government. That's how we are viewed. The same as towns, the same as the state, we are a municipality. So that's why it is technically government speech. And I don't know if that's what Dave was going to say, but that's my understanding of how the law has always been.
Yes, John, that's what I was going to say. And then Liz, I was going to ask you if you have the copy of the version 2, because that previous version, I was given direction to reframe, reshape, and take board or committee feedback to create the version 2. So I don't want you to spend too much time in version 1.
Okay, so I'll get at it. That's where I took my notes. Okay, that was the only thing that I needed clarified. So yes, John and Dave, thank you for that. That is definitely helpful to know. That clarifies things for me. I might ask that we just clarify it for the reader. And then I am, give me one second. Okay, I did notice that we removed the point, you know, it doesn't say, it just says request to fly a flag will be submitted. And something that I did like about the previous version was that student requests. Because if it has to tie, I don't know, I guess I don't understand why the community, I don't know how to verbalize this. I feel like in education, ideally, it should be student-centered.
Yeah, this one, it does clearly state students, student groups, or staff members are the only ones that can be considered.
Okay, sorry. So students, student groups, or staff members. Okay. Yes. I mean, I guess I would want it to be students and student group, but I otherwise will just say, I will echo what Adrian said, that it seems okay.
Not staff members. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, as an educator, I feel like education should be student centered. I feel like that's good practice. And so that's
Okay.
just my thought. That doesn't mean it's right. It doesn't mean it's wrong. It doesn't mean I can't be compelled to think otherwise. That's just my thought.
Okay.
But
I
I'm
wanna get-
otherwise satisfied with this version.
Okay. Tammy, do you have any comments?
Just a couple clarifying things. One is where it says under policy statement, the school board will only consider requests from MRUUSD students. Does that include, was what the group was anticipating it be does it have to only be high school students since the flag's only flying at the high school, or can it be middle school students? Can it be elementary school students? Is it district-wide students or not? And then similarly, before anyone answers, similarly, when it says further down where the petition should demonstrate support of at least 20% of the student body, again, that would be my question of where. Because our student body, 20% of 900 and something kids is a lot different than 20% of kids in the middle school, for instance. So I just was wondering what discussion may have happened prior to that.
Okay. I'm going to go through Doug. My goal is to let everybody talk, and then we'll kind of go either paragraph by paragraph and really pick it apart and make sure we give Dave the feedback he needs. Doug?
Looking through it, I don't have the whole one in front of me, and it keeps going up and down, getting most of the spot. And it's like on the playground, and I'm on the teeter-totter. The only thing I'm really somewhat concerned about, and it may not be a big thing, is that we don't have a time limit or an idea of how long that's going to be. A flag will be flown without us reconsidering whether it was okay or whether we need to take it down, whether we need to extend it out.
And you had previous comments.
It's also in the last paragraph under policy statement.
There we go.
Okay, so ultimately there's a proposal time and then there's a school board time. So we can either approve the proposed time or modify it. So that's a good distinction there. Doug, anything else? I know you had some questions about who can fly it.
No, that's pretty much concerned in here. I think I got a pretty good idea. This is pretty strong information for us to use and to keep the schools going.
Okay. Len, do you have any comments?
Hi there. Actually, just a couple of questions. Under the policy statement, that same line, the school board will only consider flag requests from Mill River student groups or staff members. Are we going to get, and this is a rhetorical question, are we going to get into trouble if a staff member suggests to fly a flag who also happens to be a community member, and yet we're not allowing community members to propose a flag? So that concerns me. I would just like a little question mark there. The only other thing, would be, and I think I said this before, request to fly a flag will be submitted to the superintendent of schools in writing. This is under the steps required. And again, I would ask, I'm trying to lighten David's load here if I can it go to the building administrator at Mill River first? And then there's more of a process involved. The same components would apply, but at least then it may end there and may never get to the superintendent and may never get to the board. That's, again, just a thought.
Yeah. Okay. John, do you have anything?
Yeah, I've got a couple of things. I think 20% of the student body is a fairly big number, even if you're just talking about the high school. You're talking what, 80 people have to sign this. So we may want to look at that just to see. I mean, petitions have to, in a town, only have to have like 5% of people to put someone on a ballot or put an item on the ballot, things like that. It's just 20% seems like a big number. Particularly in the last meeting, I brought up, what about the idea of an exemption for circumstances like we're in now, where we're in a remote learning environment, to even that number. I'm just not sure how that is going to become possible, and I don't think we want to hold up education if we are determining that these are situations of educational value because of remote learning. One thing that was in the previous version that this does not address at all is the cost of the flag, who pays for it. I think in the proposal components, an idea of the cost might be a good idea to include, regardless of who we decide is going to pay for it. It would be good information to have, I suppose. The other thing that I noted was, it was really a question. I'm very very concerned that we don't have specific language that talks about symbols, slogans, language of hate, or hate groups. And is that covered in a separate district policy that this flag may not violate? Is it covered specifically enough in a different policy, I guess, is my question on that.
BJ, can I speak to that? Is that okay?
Yeah. Go ahead.
John, to that specific question, so that third bullet point on exclusionary criteria, right? It may not violate any district policy. Policy F20, our hazing, harassment, bullying policy, spells out symbols of hate and racial harassment in particular, among other types of harassment. And all of those symbols that you just mentioned, along with a few others, are articulated in board policy as not being permitted on school grounds.
Okay, because I mean, there are some very subtle ones out there that are not easily recognized by a lot of people. I'm thinking particularly the what is it, Pepe the frog okay symbol held in a certain way is a white power symbol, and that's not widely known, but it is registered with the Anti-Defamation League and Southern Poverty Law Center as a sign of white power. So I just want to make sure, because I could see somebody wanting to do that, put up a Pepe frog flag with it, and people don't know what that is. It might slip by. That's, I guess.
Yeah,
there's a lot of stuff out there, so that's my concern.
Yeah, I hear that, John. I'd be curious as to how the connection of that flag to an academic or board or district goal, advancing. There would probably be a disconnect there that I think the board has enough ground to stand on, but it's a valid point you make on how much do we spell out.
Okay.
I just suggested that we say that nothing on the flag can be registered with a nationally recognized organization such as Anti-Defamation League, Southern Poverty Law Center, which would cover us for things as they develop, as their lists develop. That's my suggestion on that verbiage.
Okay. Cool. Guess it's my turn. Dave, up in the top, you talk about 2 flags. Does that include the U.S. flag and the Vermont flag? Or is that 2 flags in addition to those 2?
So the language there, BJ, in the third paragraph
Yeah.
says excluding the United States and Vermont flags. So that means other than the U.S. and Vermont, only 2 flags at a time may be approved.
Okay.
The truth of the matter is you couldn't fit more than 2 extra flags on the Mill River
No, I just want to do that. For raising the flag, we had a reason for the different reasons that we would raise it is anything of student representation. I don't know if we want to include that at all. I'm thinking in terms of like if we get some exchange students. I don't know if the main flagpole is the best way to represent them, but I think it'd be nice to honor where they're from. And I don't know if this is the right place to do that or not, but I just wanted to put that out there. David, is there a flagpole by the supervisory union entrance?
There is not. There's a flagpole next to the baseball field back behind
Okay.
the Mill River building, but there's not anything by the district offices.
Because the other thing I was thinking about is the fact that this policy seems very written toward the high school and kind of excludes the elementary schools. I'm wondering if we can tweak it a little bit, kind of also going off of what Len said. You know, if the request went to the school administrators for approval on the particular school's flagpole, that would be kind of good. And the reason why I kind of say that is I consider the flagpole at the high school like the high school flagpole and not necessarily the district flagpole. That's why I was wondering if there was another one.
It says right on the bottom paragraph that only the Mill River flagpole will be utilized for the purpose of this.
Which is why I'm questioning that line.
So you'd rather have it have all of them, because I wasn't clear on
So
what
the-
you just said. I thought you were unsure.
Okay,
of which-
I'm wondering. That's why that one is what made me think of. Is there one that's not specific to the high school? There isn't. Then the next question is, can we write this policy so it represents not necessarily the flagpole at the Mill River, but the flagpole that it was proposed for, school was for? Was something I was thinking of.
So you want to fly the flags at the elementary schools, and have different flags at each school? Is that what you're saying?
Possibly. I mean, I could see there being some curriculum that Shrewsbury is doing around, I don't know, who knows what.
Are we up for open discussion? Or have you not gone through everyone?
Yeah, I was the last one. So we're now in open discussion. Do we want to start at the top, or do we want to just kind of go off what this conversation's going?
Well, I mean, we could finish this. I mean, I'm hoping that we limit this, because one of the really strong objections, which resonated with me when I was listening to them from the community, was that there are topics that may be suggested that for kids 6th grade and under, parents don't feel comfortable with the school necessarily addressing. And while I think our teachers are thoroughly capable, also understand why that would be true.
Yeah.
And I think if we're asking the person who is requesting the flag to provide the information of how this is connected to curriculum, or how this is connected to a course of study, or whatever, that's a weighty load. And I'm really hoping that would be a student body centered thing. I mean, there might be times where there's a teacher who, or some kind of a staff member who would like to suggest something, but they would also have to have a really strong tie-in. And I don't know if that's really, where we want to go with the elementary schools. I think it becomes very complicated. And to answer to Len's, just because I think if we're going to use the board as the final decision maker, I don't think we want to go way down the list to the high school principal. I think the board gets information from the superintendent.
Yeah.
And I'd prefer to have it go there and then come to us, or not go anywhere. That's just my opinion. So those are my comments.
Yeah. My thinking was not that an approval would go to every single school. My thinking was more that each school would have to maintain their own flagpole individually. So and I'm thinking like Bike Safety Week. Maybe they want to fly something around Bike Safety Week at Wallingford for a week. And that can be definitely related to curriculum and things like that. And I just didn't want to exclude that option.
BJ,
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying, and I agree with Adrian. You know, something that makes our community schools so special is that they are our community schools. And the fact of the matter is that each community is different. And we need to be respectful of that. And so I do, BJ, I recognize that what you're saying is, you know, let Shrewsbury do its own thing, you know, Wallingford do its own thing, Timoth do its own thing, Clarendon do its own thing. But I think maybe for the sake of this discussion, we should start with the Mill River Union. I always think of, you know, Mill River Union as a 7 through 12 junior high school. So I always think of it as kind of one entity.
Okay, so if I'm understanding this correctly, we're not writing a policy that's K-12. We're writing a policy that's just for the high school.
Well, the junior high. So my understanding,
the building.
Mill River, yes, 712.
Okay, if that's
my understanding.
if that's so, we have Adrian, we Liz. I'm okay with that. I just want to be clear that this policy is Len.
And I don't disagree with any of that. And this is just a tag on, and I'll be brief. I really think we need to think about a way of setting up so that students, not the flagpoles, but students have an opportunity, whether it's in this particularly the elementary schools, can express their free speech and focus on a particular country that they're studying or an idea that they're studying and do it within the school, not on the flagpole, but find a place in the school building that they can do that.
Okay. Just a quick vote. So this policy is designed mainly for 7 through 12. Thumbs up if you think that's where you wanted that to go. I got 1, 2. Adrian, you suggested it. Okay, cool. So David, you got that feedback. That's fine for me. Let's kind of bounce back up to the top. John, go ahead.
I think this is a good place to start is with the high school. I think ultimately we do want to probably come up with something that would be for the elementary schools that may be slightly different in reflection of the different culture and climate at each school, the different age group that we're dealing with, things like that. I think it will be appropriate to do that. I think it would also be appropriate to do something along the lines of designating another space or area or something outdoors where other flags could be flown, but there is a special connotation or special meaning to the main flagpole at any building, whether it's a school or government or a business. It just seems to have a special meaning for folks. So I think this policy addresses that particular flagpole at the high school and is a good starting point.
Okay, on that note, then, because all the policies are K-12 officially, David, correct me if I'm wrong, do we need to put something in here that I guess elementary schools aren't requesting this, or I guess it already fits. So I don't think it makes any difference.
BJ, I guess I'd just suggest, yes, our policies are K-12, but we already have policies on the books that point to the middle school and high school based on the content of the policies. You know,
yeah.
Animal dissection would be an example, right? That's a high school activity. It's a K-12 policy, but it's very specific to one level.
Okay, cool. I'm okay with that. I just wanted to make sure that was cleared up. Okay.
And I just want to say to John's point, if there are any elementary teachers watching this, you know, I was inspired while John, you were talking, and I was thinking, oh, it would be really sweet, like if the school got together and made like a Wallingford Wildcats flag, right? Or or if Shrewsbury students or Timoth students, whatever, Clarendon students made a flag, for example, and they all put, you know, something about themselves on the flag and they were able to fly that, like, that's a beautiful thing. You know, these are our community schools and we're celebrating our children. Yet, you know, I do think that's a discussion for another day.
Okay. I say go with it. There's your feedback, David. Okay. Let's kind of go up to the quick top. I do want to hit this first paragraph because it's had some discussion. Is there any changes that we want to do with that paragraph, that top paragraph?
BJ, I heard Liz asking for clarity around government speech. John kind of spoke to it. Is there any type of change to the language there that we might be looking for to clarify what that means?
I gotta admit, I get confused by it.
Can I just suggest that somewhere in there it says, it identifies the district as a municipality, therefore this is government speech, some kind of language like that. Does that make sense?
Yes, so I'm just looking at it now. So thereby maintaining the distinction between government speech of the board, I don't know, and private speech by students and community members. I almost feel like we should strike well, never mind. All right, never mind. I'm going to start wordsmithing this because I'm a linguist. So let me mute myself.
So John, your point about just making the municipality distinction and therefore the speech of the district is government speech, I can make those modifications, no problem.
I think that'll cover it and explain it at least enough that people will understand why.
Okay. I'm going to move on to the next line. The board is not obligated to approve any flag requests. I got it's good.
That
Okay.
speaks for itself.
Okay. Any discussion about excluding the United States and the Vermont flags? Only 2 flags at a time. Does that seem good? Okay. The in accordance with the U.S. flag approved by. I'm getting a bunch of nods. Okay, and now we're down to the next one that had a lot of discussion. The school board would only consider flag requests from MRSU students, student groups, or staff members.
So if we're saying the flagpole that we're dealing with is only for the middle school, high school, then we should distinguish that the Mill River students we're talking about are only middle school, high school students, in my opinion.
If the group agreed, I can certainly make that modification, no problem.
I think you just change MRUUSD to MRUHS. That would
solve that.
Yep.
do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yep.
And we talked about staff members at the last meeting because we thought that given that this was for educational purposes, they might have things that they want to suggest. A staff member somewhere may have something they want to suggest.
I would just like to chime in that I'm concerned based on, you know, the information that we've received thus far from the community that was, you know, heard, understood, and helpful in this decision-making process. It might be considered indoctrination if it is not student-centered and coming from students. So I would prefer that it just come from students and student groups and not come from staff.
Staff can always work through students and student groups.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Len?
Can we put on, because I think in terms of teachers presenting it, which may be a result of students pushing for things, can we at least say, or teachers as a result of specific curriculum plans or something like that, so that as a teacher, if the students in my class or in 9th grade want to do something and they come to me and they're not, or 7th or 8th grade students, and they're not too crazy about presenting it themselves, that I couldn't be their spokesperson as long as it's curriculum centered. I don't know if that changes it or not.
I actually have a comment here. A couple things is I don't particularly like the idea of a staff member going around trying to petition students to fly a flag they want to fly. That doesn't fly well with me. I do agree with maybe staff members, students having to get a staff advisee or approval. As part of the petition process, they must have a staff member representative that could help them through this process. So they could have to list. I don't know if that's good or bad.
And if I may, I'm going to change what I just said, because my concern is staff members may be community members. So if a staff member who's a community member is making a recommendation, you're going to have other community members who are saying, well, you listen to them and to us differentiate. So I would suggest we eliminate it.
Um,
Go ahead.
I don't mind having staff members being able to do that, to suggest flags. I think we're forgetting, I'm hoping that the biggest piece of this is the information that we get from whoever is suggesting a flag to tie it to goals and curriculum. And I think that's a really important part, and we have to hold to that very, very clearly and strongly, and not just say, oh yes, isn't that a lovely idea? It really has to be representative of something that is going on in the school. And I actually, we haven't quite gotten down to the, although we've sort of touched on it, the petition piece. I'm not sure I really like that as being, I mean, the or other form of evidence. And I don't think we need to have the 20% piece in there. I mean, I think there has to be some leeway for our part. I mean, that's a big ask.
BJ, could I throw a comment in trying to capture the spirit of what Len is talking about? I wonder if it would be helpful, back to the line, the school board will only consider flag requests from, and we're going to say MRUUHS students or student groups. Len suggested remove the staff members. I'm wondering if down in the required proposal components, I wonder if we could require that a request that's coming from students, that they need to have a staff member sponsor or a staff member, support person, advocate, whatever the word is that describes the adult who's just helping them through the process. Just food for thought.
I think that makes sense, because that's another kind of step towards it either going to the principal or not going to the principal, or going to the superintendent or not going to the superintendent. Teachers or what is it, the pod teachers, they can vet these requests and this work, and I think that makes sense. I want to just kind of piggyback on what Adrian said, though. I would like to see that we say that proposals tie into transferable skills. And this goes back to what Len was saying. And one of the reasons, I would like to see, and it sounds like we are removing the option that requests may come from staff members, is because transferable skills include things like self-direction, which is, taking the initiative of saying, hey, I want to do this work, and putting, together what needs to be put together in order to realize that goal. But also critical thinking and informed thinking. I'd like to see it tie into transferable skills, but also remove, which again, I think it sounds like we're doing that, the staff member piece.
Okay.
So are
Tammy?
you saying the application? Can I clarify, Liz? The application has to include
So we
skills.
added, for example, it says that the rationale, it ties either into district goals or current academic endeavors or programs, or is connected to curriculum and courses of study, or it ties into Vermont's transferable skills.
Okay, I get that. Thanks. Sorry.
I'm gonna say we have less than 10 minutes left of this. I don't want to rush this process, even though I want to get it done. Let me say my piece, and I'm gonna have you speak, Tammy. What I'm thinking is, do we want to have a second meeting this month, either next Tuesday or the following Tuesday, to go over this more? Because I don't think we finished discussing it. Or do we want to wait another month, or how do we want to go forward with this?
I'd be fine meeting another time this month. If
I think
others
that's
are.
important. Yeah, if it works, because
Right.
what I was going to say is whatever we hammer out and as a, that the committee is happy with it, before it goes to the board, I think a really important step is to have it submitted to our council so that we know that what's being submitted to the board for a first reading is legally what we're allowed to do and, kind of ties in all those ends that we were concerned about enough to write the policy. So I think that's important.
Okay, so David, looking at the time, do you have enough information to make a version 3 of this?
Sure, I
Okay.
do. And I would also add, we could certainly schedule something quickly for the committee to get back together again. I will turn around the version 3 pretty fast. So when I send that to the board, I'd encourage you to give that a look before that next meeting so that we can save that time on the front end. And we'll all be in a common place with that. But I just going through some of the things that I'm hearing, going to clarify the government speech piece, going to clarify the MRUUSD students as opposed to district students. I didn't hear a strong stance one way or the other on like a faculty advisor or anything like that, but I may put language in there so that you can see what it looks like to see if that's something that you want to deal with.
Yeah.
I've heard some comments, although we didn't discuss it much, about the concept of a petition and 20%, and that needs to be reworked a little bit. So I'll do my best to come up with something that makes more sense in that regard. From Liz, adding the Vermont transferable skills into that kind of list of things that it could link to. And I think that's a decent number of shifts to get a version 3 to you pretty quickly.
Okay. Just looking at the group, I know Liz, you're officially on. Tammy, you're officially. Len, you're an official one. Adrian, you're official. So Doug, you're the only one that's not official, right? And John. Yeah, Doug and John. Okay. Do we want to do it next Tuesday at 5? No.
I just looked at my calendar. I can do 2 weeks from today, but I can't do next week.
On the 20th?
Mm-hmm.
Do we want to? Does the
Hang
20th?
on 1 second, BJ. I got to check my calendar.
BJ,
I'm
there are
fine on
no,
the 20th.
no other board activities that I can see on the 20th, so that is available.
Yeah.
It's fine for me.
No, it's one of those things
Is that going to give us enough time to get this to the attorney?
That I don't think we will before the board meeting on the 21st.
So this is going to wait
Not-
until a November board meeting to be approved now?
If we can't meet until the 20th, it would have to be.
Do
Because I
we
think
want-
as much as I want it to be sent out for a first reading, don't you agree, John, that we really want to make sure we have it correct and not?
I do. I'm just disappointed that this is taking
Could
this
we
long.
meet on a
Yeah.
different night?
Yeah, can we
We
meet
do it
sometime next
14th?
week?
Could we meet on the
My
15th?
calendar is packed. My calendar is very packed, and most of my nights are eaten up. My
I know, but we
availability
have to
is
deal with
so
this, guys.
you could okay. So I mean, you can meet without me. Next week I'm not available.
Well,
Next
Liz,
week
is
is
it,
very
important.
busy for me.
Could we have
yeah.
your written comments?
Yeah,
On a
so
version 3?
I can read version 3, submit comments, and yeah, you can certainly meet without me.
Okay, so was the 13th?
But you'd send your comments.
Yeah.
Yes.
So was the
Okay.
13th okay?
13th works.
Okay, so we'll do a 13th at 5. And David,
Thank
can
you
get
all
that.
very much for that.
Yep.
And that should give us, if we have a version that's ready for a first reading, then that should give us enough time to get it through to Pietro's office and have them look at it and get back to us with comments.
Great.
Okay. So David, you're gonna get that on the calendar, and I don't think we need to do the YouTube version of it, David. I think we can just do it a regular. maybe just have a pre-sign up for any comments so we know if that's going to happen.
You bet, can do, BJ.
And at that time, I making a motion. Is there any motion to adjourn?
Hold on,
I
guys.
see
I will.
Tammy
It's Adrian.
and then Len.
Wait, but you're skipping stuff on the agenda.
Am I?
You should
Oh,
hear.
I am.
We have
Am I?
transact other legal business agenda building.
Thank you. Okay, so do we have any other business to transact?
Yes, you do. You didn't do the approval of minutes because you didn't have a quorum. You have a quorum now.
Oh, yes. Thank you for that reminder.
Okay, go ahead.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes from 9:22?
I'll
So
make
moved,
that
Mrs.
motion
Adrian.
again. Yeah.
And then
I'll
Len,
second it
I'll
again.
second it then.
okay. Do we have,
I'm sorry, I'm not looking because I'm in the minutes. Who seconded that?
Len?
Thank
Give
you.
it to Len. And may I have was it a motion? Okay. What's a vote for
Vote.
approval? Okay, a vote for approval.
I'll abstain. Again, it's Tammy, Liz.
Okay, so
I wasn't here.
Len says yes. Adrian, I need something saying yes or
Liz
no.
and Tammy are abstaining.
Okay, so we have 3 yeses.
And Adrian's saying yes. Yep.
So it's approved. Okay.
Okay.
Any other business to transact?
Thank you, BJ.
Okay. Agenda building for the next one. We kind of talked about it. We're going to have another one on the 13th at 5. And it's going
We're going
to
to talk about the policy for flags.
talk about the flag policy. So the agenda will probably be very similar.
David, do we need to do anything with Title IX? Since go ahead.
Yeah, so we have a board professional development training scheduled for 6 o'clock on the 21st. So our next board meeting that we've got. And after that, we'll be equipped to start talking about Title IX policy. It's heavy and big, so we need to get flags navigated before we move on to that one.
I understand that. I just didn't want to leave it dangling out there.
Yeah, you bet.
Okay.
Dave, what was the date of that Title IX discussion?
The
Professional
21st.
development?
The
Thank
21st.
you.
That's second board meeting of October.
Okay. So good. And then adjourn. We have a first and second.
Sure.
Yeah, you can adjourn by consensus too.
And then I'm going to adjourn by consensus. So at
And all
6 o'clock.
personnel committee people, please read what I sent out to you via email.